I want you to start by imagining a subterranean fortress. And I mean, not just a reinforced basement, right?
No, definitely not.
Right, a complex so deep underground that just riding the elevator down to your front door takes 5 full minutes before the doors finally open.
5 minutes in an elevator. It's just a staggering visualization, to put yourself in that space.
It really is. And then imagine living inside that earth and concrete shield for 36 years. You are surrounded by elite guards, layered security grids, and this technological dome designed to be absolutely impenetrable.
Right.
For decades, you were considered an impossible target. But then, on February 28th, 2026, the ceiling literally caves in.
Yeah, and that was the daily reality for Iranian Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. Today, we are opening up the mechanics of a 10-year joint operation by Mossad and the CIA to breach that exact fortress.
It's a massive story.
It really is. We're going to unpack the technological, the human, and the geopolitical strategies of what it actually takes to reach one of the most protected human beings on the planet.
But, before we get into the blowtorches, the hacked satellites, and the 10-year sleeper viruses, because we're getting to all of that, we need to lay down a very clear marker for you, the listener.
Exactly. The ground rules for today's deep dive are vital. We're examining highly sensitive, incredibly charged geopolitical events today.
Yes.
And we are not here to take a side. We are not endorsing actions, and we are not validating the politics of either Israel or Iran. Our mission today is strictly and impartially to break down the factual narrative, the intelligence strategies and the technical mechanics of the operation itself. We are looking exclusively at the how and the why.
Absolutely. Because, the story of this operation doesn't actually start with targeting a person at all.
Right. It really doesn't.
Yeah. For years, leading right up to about 2017 or so, Israel's primary objective wasn't Khamenei. It was neutralizing Iran's nuclear program. And that led to a massive, just frustrating deadlock.
It was this endless loop.
Exactly. If Israel assassinated a top nuclear scientist, the regime simply appointed 3 more. If they managed to bomb a known nuclear facility, the entire operation would just be shifted to a newly built, even more secret location.
It was a classic Hydra problem, really. You cut off one head and 2 more grow back in the dark.
Right.
The underlying issue was that the shadow network running the program was incredibly decentralized and just deeply resilient. The intelligence community was, frankly, exhausting vast resources on tactical wins that ultimately resulted in strategic failures.
It's like trying to sink a ship by bailing out the water instead of plugging the hole.
That's a great way to put it.
You're working incredibly hard, but the source of the problem remains completely untouched. The realization that they needed a fundamental change in tactics. That actually happened on January 31st, 2018.
Yes.
Mossad agents infiltrated a warehouse in the Shorabad district of Tehran.
Yeah.
And they brought blowtorches.
Which is just wild. This was one of the most audacious intelligence heists in modern history. The Shorabad warehouse was essentially the physical hard drive of Iran's nuclear ambition.
The physical hard drive.
Yeah, it housed the most sensitive original documents and disks outlining the blueprint of their entire program. The Mossad team breached the facility, used thermal lances to slice straight through these massive iron safes, loaded half a ton of these documents into a truck, and then smuggled them right across the border.
Half a ton of secret nuclear documents.
Yeah.
I mean, when the Israeli war cabinet actually sat down and reviewed that intelligence, the reality check was brutal, wasn't it?
Oh, completely.
They found blueprints for underground facilities they had absolutely zero idea even existed.
It completely shattered their previous operational model. The documents proved that Khamenei's shadow network was so deeply entrenched that, well, as long as the core leadership was breathing, the nuclear program would survive and rebuild.
Right.
Bombing centrifuges was just a waste of time. That is the exact moment the strategic pivot happened. They shifted from targeting the program to targeting the man at the top.
Oh, wait, I'm stuck on this timeline for a second. Let's unpack this. If they realized in 2018 that the building bombing strategy was useless and they knew the leadership was the actual center of gravity, why not strike then?
That's the big question.
Right, because it's a massive leap to wait another 8 years to execute.
You're right to spot that gap, and it comes down to geopolitical fallout. You really cannot overstate the stakes here. Khamenei wasn't just a political leader. He was the symbol of a nation and a massive regional power network.
Right, the blowback would be immense.
Exactly. If you execute a strike of that magnitude without the right preparation, you aren't just taking out a target. You are instantly triggering a full-scale regional war. Israel faced immense risks regarding international law. They needed a strategic delay.
A delay to build the case.
Yes. They had to gather unquestionable proof of nuclear reconstruction to ensure the United States would firmly back them. You just can't rush that diplomatic foundation.
And time is exactly what they used to map the target. Let's talk about the Motahari complex, also known as the Pasteur Street Compound in Tehran.
The topography there is a nightmare.
It is an absolute nightmare. Put yourself in the shoes of an intelligence analyst looking at a 30-acre zone housing the Beit Rabari, which is Khamenei's home and office, plus the offices of the president, the National Security Council, and his son Mojtaba's office.
Yeah, over 50 crucial government nodes packed into one space.
Right, is the nerve center of the country, protected by 3 rigorous surface layers.
The innermost 500-meter radius was guarded exclusively by the Valley Amr, right? A unit fiercely loyal only to Khamenei.
Yeah, and beyond that, you had the Ansar al-Mahdi rapid reaction units and the Nabi Akram units. We are talking about active frequency detectors, electromagnetic jamming equipment, and literally massive iron nets physically draped over buildings to catch incoming loitering munitions or drones.
It's like something out of a sci-fi movie. And that's just what you could see from the street.
Exactly.
Beneath the surface was that 5-kilometer subterranean network where Khamenei actually lived. But here's the detail that completely changes the math. The exits.
Right, the exits.
There were 8 specific entry and exit gates to this bunker system, and they weren't hidden inside military installations, 2 exits were in a multi-story public parking lot.
Wow.
2 were near civilian schools. 1 was under a vaccination center. 1 by a children's football facility. 1 beneath a mosque.
And the main command post.
Yeah.
Directly under a functioning medical center. Which, I mean, that has to be entirely by design. Right?
Oh, absolutely. This layout forces a terrible ethical and tactical choice. It is a deliberate human shield on a massive scale.
Right, because if you know the command post is under a medical center, conventional kinetic warfare is instantly off the table.
Right.
You can't just drop a bunker buster bomb on a hospital without catastrophic civilian casualties and losing all international backing. How does an intelligence agency even begin to bypass that?
Well, exactly. The subterranean shield and the civilian infrastructure made brute force bombing politically and physically impossible. This layout forced the intelligence agencies into a complete pivot.
Okay.
They couldn't use a hammer. They had to build a microscopic scalpel.
Yeah.
It necessitated surgical, absolute infiltration from the ground up. If you can't blow the door down from the outside, you have to find the people who already have the keys.
Which means targeting the invisible workforce. The plumbers, the electricians, the trash collectors.
Yes.
Units at 8,200, 9,900, and Mossad operatives spent years recruiting and planting human assets inside that mundane support structure. They were literally analyzing the compound's daily trash to figure out who was doing what and when.
Biological access, human intelligence is the foundation, but the digital layer is where the walls really started to dissolve. They needed to map the internal layout and the escape routes without ever stepping foot inside. To do that, they deployed Pegasus spyware.
Okay, let's pause on Pegasus because the mechanism here is genuinely terrifying.
It is.
It's developed by the NSO group and, it doesn't require the target to click a phishing link or download a sketchy file, right?
Correct. It operates on what's called a zero-click exploit. The spyware can infect a phone simply by initiating a missed WhatsApp call.
So you don't even have to answer it.
The user doesn't even have to answer it. Once it's on the device, it essentially turns the smartphone into a live, remote-controlled hot mic and camera.
Wow.
By infecting the personal phones of the compound's cooks, drivers, and doctors, intelligence analysts could track their exact physical movements deep underground. They were mapping the bunker based on the Wi-Fi and cellular handshakes of the staff's phones.
That is wild. But the digital infiltration goes even further. Iran had installed thousands of Chinese-manufactured surveillance cameras throughout Tehran and the compound to monitor protesters and maintain internal security.
And this is a masterclass in exploiting an adversary's own infrastructure.
Yeah.
The Iranian security apparatus purchased these cameras but failed to routinely update the firmware. In the world of cybersecurity, an unpatched firmware vulnerability isn't just a glitch, it is an open door.
Here's where it gets really interesting for me. It's like the ultimate digital judo move. It's like the regime built an incredibly expensive high-tech security fence, but left the master key taped to the padlock by simply forgetting to run a software update.
Exactly.
Unit 8200 exploited a remote code execution flaw in those cameras.
Meaning they didn't just blind the cameras or loop the footage, they actively took over the processing power of the devices. They turned Iran's own apparatus of control into a live, high-definition Israeli spy tool.
So they basically had eyes everywhere.
They had eyes on every surface movement inside the compound.
So they have the ground covered through hacked cameras and infected phones. But they were also watching from space. The United States brought in KH-11 series satellites, which are so optically precise they can read a license plate from 600 kilometers up in orbit.
Incredible technology.
But the real game changer was the Orion satellite. What's fascinating about Orion is that it isn't a camera at all. It acts as a giant ear.
Precisely. Orion intercepts the electromagnetic spectrum. It doesn't take pictures, it sweeps up signals. Every time a compound commander used a walkie-talkie, every time a satellite phone pinged a tower, every encrypted radio burst, Orion caught it.
Wow.
All that raw signal data was beamed down to the Pine Gap Military Facility, which is a highly secure joint defense space research facility out in the Australian desert, for processing. The penetration was so absolute that analysts knew what Khamenei was eating for dinner in real time.
But, put yourself in the shoes of those Iranian security chiefs in 2023. They weren't completely oblivious, right? The paranoia was absolute.
Oh, they knew something was wrong.
Yeah, they banned all electronics near Khamenei. They were blindfolding their own senior officials, like Ali Larijani, before driving them into the bunker so even their own leadership couldn't map the routes.
Trust nobody.
Exactly. They installed a closed-loop fiber optic network to keep communications grounded and invisible to the Orion satellite. They were physically calculating the orbital speeds and trajectories of American and Israeli satellites so they could move Khamenei during the brief optical blind spots.
The counterintelligence effort was massive.
Which raises a huge logistical question. If Iran is calculating satellite orbits, using fiber optics, and literally blindfolding their own people, how on earth did the intelligence agencies keep the data fresh enough to actually plan a strike? It sounds like the countermeasures were working.
They were working, to an extent, by creating an intentional data bottleneck. Think about the sheer volume of information being collected. Millions of intercepted walkie-talkie blips, thousands of hours of hacked security camera footage, scattered reports from trash collectors. Human analysts were physically incapable of putting those pieces together in real time.
Because it's just too much.
Exactly. You might have a walkie-talkie ping from Orion, but connecting that ping to a specific driver turning a specific corner on a hacked camera feed takes a human hours or days.
So the intelligence paradigm shifted. The problem used to be gathering enough data. Now the problem is that they were drowning in it.
Exactly. To break through that static, they needed a technological leap capable of instantaneous synthesis. Enter artificial intelligence, specifically the Pentagon's Maven smart system.
The catalyst that moved this entire operation from theoretical preparation to active execution was the October 7th, 2023 Hamas attacks.
Yes, that changed everything.
Following that, the agencies fed years of this accumulated fragmented data into the Maven AI, and the processing power is hard to comprehend.
In just 90 minutes, the Maven system analyzed nearly a decade of intelligence with a 98.7% accuracy rate.
90 minutes.
90 minutes. It didn't just track movements. It built a complete pattern of life. AI in this context isn't just facial recognition, it's routine correlation.
Okay, so like what?
Like it learned that the security chief always met his brother on Tuesdays. It knew a specific driver habitually turned left at 6:45 a.m. It even analyzed Khamenei's specific walking gait and biometric posture so it could instantly distinguish him from his body doubles on a grainy, hacked camera feed.
It completely removes the human error of fatigue. AI isn't just a tool here. It's the only way to synthesize a decade of surveillance into an actionable blueprint.
Absolutely.
But even with AI plotting the perfect strike, there was still the political window to consider. Throughout 2024, the Biden administration was actively warning against direct strikes on Iranian leadership, fearing that wider regional war.
The geopolitical calculus shifted entirely with the November 2024 U.S. election. Donald Trump's victory provided the diplomatic foundation Israel had been waiting for since 2018. His administration's hardline stance against Iran gave the intelligence agencies the political green light they needed.
This leads directly to Operation Rising Lion in June 2025. U.S. jets actually joined the Israeli strikes on Iranian facilities. Khamenei retreats deep into the Lavizan bunker and releases a 9-minute propaganda video to prove he's alive.
Yeah.
And the technical manipulation of this video is brilliant. The footage was intentionally blurry and low quality. I mean, degrading your own state propaganda video as a counterintelligence tactic, that's wild.
It is brilliant in its desperation, really. They degraded the audio and visual quality specifically to prevent Mossad from analyzing ambient cues.
Because they'd be listening to the background noise.
Exactly. If they released a high-quality audio file, acoustic engineers could isolate the specific hum of a ventilation system or the vibration of a diesel generator.
Yeah.
From those acoustic signatures, they could calculate exactly how deep underground he was hiding.
Oh, wow.
By crushing the audio bitrate, they blinded the acoustic analysts.
During this period, Trump posts on social media that the U.S. knows exactly where Khamenei is, but they're choosing not to strike yet, which leads to a tense pause. But wait, if they have AI mapping his walking style, they know where he is, and they finally have the political backing from Washington, why sit on their hands until 2026?
Yeah, why wait?
There has to be an external forcing function pushing them to strike then. Right. What was the ticking clock?
You're right to look for the forcing function. They were racing a completely different clock uranium enrichment.
Oh.
Iran was continuing to aggressively enrich uranium to 60% purity, creeping dangerously close to weapons grade. The assessment in November 2025 by Prime Minister Netanyahu and his intelligence chiefs was stark.
What was the call?
If they delayed much longer, the nuclear program would reach a point of absolute no return, regardless of who is leading the country. The political window was open, the intelligence was mature, but the target's nuclear capability was redlining. Khamenei had to be eliminated in the first quarter of 2026.
Which brings us to the final week. February of 2026. 10 years of preparation culminating in a matter of days.
Yeah.
On February 23rd, intelligence confirms Khamenei is holding a high-level meeting with 40 top officials on February 28th. Everyone naturally assumes it's going to be deep in the bunker.
Of course.
But on February 27th, less than 24 hours before the meeting, two pieces of intel changed the entire game. The meeting is moved from the evening to the morning, and it is moved from the bunker to a room on the surface level.
A fleeting, fatal shift in protocol.
Yeah.
At 7:30 a.m. on February 28th, Israeli F-35s and F-15s launched from the Nevatim Air Base, joined by U.S. jets. As the meeting in Tehran begins, the digital trap finally snaps shut.
The mobile communication towers around the Pasteur Street Compound are completely jammed. Guards try to radio for help, and there's nothing but dead air.
But to even reach Tehran, those jets had to get past Iran's Russian-made S-300 and Bavar 373 air defense systems. These are highly advanced radar and missile networks. And this is where the mechanics are just astounding. They didn't just bomb the radars. Unit 8200 activated dormant malware that they had embedded in the supply chains of those air defense systems years earlier.
Let's explain how that actually works, because it's not like just downloading a virus from an email.
No, supply chain infiltration is the holy grail of cyber warfare. You don't attack the fortress from the outside, you compromise the bricks before the fortress is even built.
Wow.
Years prior, intelligence operatives likely compromised a third-party microchip manufacturer in a different country that supplied components for the Russian S-300 system.
So it was already inside.
The malware was baked into the physical hardware of the radar computers before they were ever shipped to Iran. It sat there, completely dormant, waiting for a specific radio frequency to wake it up.
It's like planting a termite in the foundation of a fortress a decade before you plan to push it over. The patience is just staggering. The moment the Allied jets entered Iranian airspace, they broadcast that wake-up signal. The dormant malware activated. Radar screens inside the Iranian defense bunkers simply went blank. Targeting computers glitched. The command center lost all contact with its missile batteries.
And they layered the attack. While the malware blinded the system from the inside, U.S. Navy Growler aircraft flooded the airspace with massive electromagnetic jamming,
Covering all the bases.
Simultaneously, small drones that had been smuggled into Iran piece by piece years prior were launched locally, flying directly into the blinded S-300 batteries to physically destroy them.
The entire sovereign defense network collapsed in minutes.
It left the airspace completely uncontested. At 9:40 a.m., 30 Blue Sparrow missiles struck the exact room on the surface where the meeting was taking place.
These are hypersonic munitions, right?
Yes. They exit the Earth's atmosphere, re-enter, and strike at speeds exceeding Mach 5, making them physically impossible to intercept with current technology. The kinetic force alone is devastating. The pristine surface compound was instantly turned into a smoldering crater.
The physical destruction was absolute. But what followed was a psychological operation designed to be just as devastating. 12 minutes after the hypersonic strike, the Saba religious app, which millions of Iranians use daily for Islamic prayer times, was remotely hacked.
Every single user across the country received 2 push notifications.
The first just said, "Help has arrived."
And the second was a formal military surrender order.
That is the ultimate display of dominance over a nation's infrastructure. It is chilling. It wasn't just about eliminating the leadership. It was about demonstrating to the entire military and civilian population that the state's security apparatus was completely, irreparably hollowed out.
They own the airspace, the cameras, and the phones in their citizens' pockets.
The casualties were massive. Khamenei, his daughter, his son-in-law, top generals all killed in the surface blast. The only reason his son, Moshtaba, survived was because he happened to step out of the room a few minutes prior.
Just unbelievable timing.
Right. But looking at how seamlessly this unfolded, the app notification proving they own the infrastructure, the sudden change in venue, do you think that last-minute move to the surface was just catastrophic hubris? Or was it truly a coordinated inside job?
Well, the timing heavily suggests an internal mole. Moving a meeting of that magnitude to a highly vulnerable surface room mere hours before a strike points toward internal facilitation.
Somebody knew something.
Suspicion naturally fell on General Esmail Kawani, the head of the Quds Force. Statistically, his survival record was absurd. He had miraculously survived 9 separate targeted strikes that killed everyone else around him over the years.
Mossad even leaned into the chaos, joking online that he wasn't their agent. But Iranian security arrested him anyway.
Exactly. Whether Kawani was actually an intelligence asset or just possessed uncanny survival instincts didn't matter anymore. The resulting paranoia was the real weapon. The regime began eating itself from the inside out. Trust was completely broken at the highest levels.
The paranoia was so absolute that Khamenei's body was actually kept in cold storage. They changed his funeral date multiple times because the remaining leadership was genuinely terrified that if his supporters gathered publicly, another wave of bombs would drop.
They were paralyzed by the sky.
Yeah.
That detail really encapsulates the entire 10-year operation. It wasn't just the kinetic destruction of a compound, it was the total psychological collapse of a regime's fundamental sense of security.
So we look back at the whole picture. For 36 years, a man lived deep in the earth. He rode a 5-minute elevator down to a bunker, convinced he was safe, convinced the world couldn't reach him,
Right.
only to be undone by his own unpatched security cameras. A 10-year sleeper virus baked into a microchip, an AI tracking his walking gait, and a fatal decision to hold a meeting on the surface.
If we connect this staggering sequence of events to the bigger picture, it leaves us with a profound question about the future of security. As AI systems like Maven become standard for synthesizing endless data, and supply chain malware allows adversaries to compromise hardware years before a conflict even begins, are we entering an era where physical walls, no matter how thick or how deep, are completely obsolete? Does the concept of an impenetrable fortress even exist anymore in a fully digitized world?
That is exactly the kind of question that stays with you. We've gone from 5 minutes in an elevator to the speed of a hypersonic missile, all connected by a single line of unpatched code. Thank you for taking this deep dive with us. Take that question with you, and we'll catch you next time.